What up, tech supporters? Paradox back with the overview. So I finally found a good solid aluminum intake manifold that'll fit underneath the 2.5-inch cowl hood, and you never guess how well it fits. So after a million fitment checks, I've finally got this thing in the motor and every single thing fitted. It seems to fit great, actually. So how this ended up working out was I have throttle cable adjusters that are brake cable adjusters that are attaching to the throttle cables at the pedal, so I can actually adjust these two and sync them by TPS. So I actually have a dongle I've made that attaches to this TPS and that TPS that runs off the 5-volt power, so I can actually adjust these at the pedal to make sure that the cables are opening at the correct and identical place. Worked pretty good. Right now I got it preset to be identical. As well as I have done independent boost circuits. So with the circuits, they never technically connect other than the crossover. So each turbo, like I said in the last video, is going to have, you know, its own water intercooler that it goes down to. So it's going to go cold air intake, turbo, blow off valve, elbow, water intercooler, back up into the manifold on both sides. So how these crossovers ended up working is I have a total of 7 crossovers in this manifold to make this dual throttle system work. We're going to hope it works. But what it comes down to is this right here is a crossover in the cold air intake, so that before the turbo it's already getting its air proportion to side. So both of them will have even pressure before it even hits the turbo. So this is going to be number 1. They're all 5/8 inch lines. So from there to there, identical spots. Each one of these turbos actually has identical piping and couplers. Every single thing about the left and right hemispheres is identical down to the angles. Everything is perfect to be working together. So that's number 1, as well as number 2 is going to be from the wastegate actuator hole to connect the turbos. So that's 1 and 2 crossovers, where this does connect to the wastegates, right, just dead center in them, to make sure that they're going to be hitting the wastegates at the same. Once I manually set the wastegates, I've already kind of manually set them, so everything should run right now. That's 1 and 2. And then of course number 3 for crossovers, we got to go down to the bottom side of this intercooler. So basically once the boost goes down and into the bar and plate intercooler, right at the other side where it comes up, there's a crossover right there. It's actually that stainless steel tube. So, as I showed you guys before, this thing's got cold air intakes that actually go all the way up to Cobra bezels that have a dry fit t-shirt wrapped around them so that I can replace that. So whenever they get old and nasty, I can just buy another t-shirt and wrap it around that. As well as it does make 2 layers of water protection, which would be 1 and 2. I think it's going to work pretty good. So when we get down here, these of course water intercoolers. Right there, that stainless steel tube goes from this side of the intercooler to the same place on the other side to make a 5/8 inch crossover after the intercooler. So before this map, we have 1, 2, 3 crossovers of the 2 hemispheres to make sure that before it goes through this map that it's going to read as identical as it can to that side. That's on the boost half of the circuit. And then of course the manifold side, once it's crossed the map, we're going to have where the IAC usually is turned into a port crossover. So of course that's where when the throttle plates close, they'll connect so that even if one is a little higher or lower, then it's going to, you know, breach the crossover and be able to bring the other side to its boost, as well as this is cut in the middle for the IAC. So the next canal is going to be the other side of the IAC. So when the IAC turns on, it's going to correctly proportion the pressures between the manifolds at this crossover, between right there and right there. So that's number 4 and 5 for crossovers. Number 6 is going to be at the boost gauge. So I got this line right here from the dead center of the side of the manifold to the dead center of the side of the manifold at the boost gauge to make sure that even when she's dumping that it's going to keep even boost and everything across the entire manifold. So 1, 2, and 3, all 4, all in the manifold, to make sure that as it's dumping, I'm still getting even pressure to each side. And then the 7th total crossover is going to be right there in the back, that 3/4 tube. And that's also to make sure that this boost stays even. So once the manifold opens and shuts all the way up to the throttle, we're going to have even on both sides, as well as all the way up to before the throttle, to create a pushrod GTR. So I'm about to get tuning this thing